Welcome to the deep dive. We're plunging into the incredibly complex world of Formula One today, trying to unravel the strategies, the big moves that shape the sport's most ambitious teams.
Absolutely. It's like a giant high-speed puzzle sometimes.
It really is. And today we're looking at a crucial piece, one that's been long awaited, actually, and is finally slotted into place for a major contender, Aston Martin.
Yeah, a team with huge ambitions.
Exactly. So our mission for this deep dive is really to explore Aston Martin's strategic preparations for, the massive rule changes coming in 2026. We're focusing particularly on the recent arrival, and it was pretty dramatic of a key technical leader.
And the challenges that brings.
Yeah.
Right, because it wasn't exactly straightforward.
Not at all. We've built this analysis from reports across leading F1 industry outlets, specialist sites too, places like soymotor.com, the race, motorsport.com. They've given some fascinating glimpses into the often hidden workings of F1 team development.
And look, our aim here isn't just to say this happened. It's about understanding why it matters, the strategic thinking behind it all. We want to connect the dots, between these big personnel changes, the surprising legal fights that sometimes happen.
Which definitely happened here.
Oh, yeah. And that relentless ticking clock counting down to the 2026 regulations. It's a whole new era for F1. So it's about figuring out not just what Aston Martin is doing, but why these moves are so critical and, what the potential pitfalls might be for them.
Okay, so with that framework, let's dive right in. Let's talk about the man at the center of this recent storm, Enrico Cardio. His arrival was planned, yes. But the journey to Aston Martin, well, it hit some serious turbulence. A legal battle, no less. So who exactly is Enrico Cardio? And why was his presence deemed so significant that Ferrari, his former team, fought so hard to keep him on the sidelines? Why does Aston Martin need him so badly for 2026?
Right. Well, Enrico Cardal, he's a big name inside the paddock. Comes with a huge amount of weight, mainly because of his long time at Ferrari and the absolutely critical role he played there.
Ferrari, the most storied team, arguably.
Exactly. Before this move to Aston Martin, he was Ferrari's chassis director.
Right.
Now, that position, it puts you right at the heart of the car's architecture. We're talking mechanical, aerodynamic, everything.
So the core of the car itself.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
The monocoque, the carbon fiber tub the driver sits in, the main structure of the suspension, all the complex aero surfaces that manage airflow, that was his domain. His knowledge in these areas, it's incredibly valuable. Highly sensitive stuff.
So I can imagine years of development, intellectual property.
Precisely. And what was kind of interesting, a bit of a quirk at Ferrari,
Yeah.
was their technical setup. They had Cardiel overseeing the chassis.
Right.
And then another Enrico Voltieri, leading the engine department.
Wait, two Enricos running the show?
For a while, yeah. Two Enricos heading up two absolutely fundamental areas. You can just picture the meetings, can't you? Which Enrico are we talking about now?
Huh. Yeah, it must have caused some confusion.
Maybe. But it just shows the level of specialized leadership they had. And Cardiel was a key part of that chassis team for years.
Right.
A real linchpin.
Okay, so clearly a valuable guy. Which brings us to how he actually got to Aston Martin, this gardening leave saga. Explain that for us. It sounds relaxing.
Hey, not quite. It's fascinating, though. Gardening leave, it's standard practice, really, in high-level jobs, especially F1, because the competition is so intense and the value of, secrets, intellectual property is just enormous.
So what is it exactly?
Okay, so when a key employee, someone like Cardiel with access to really sensitive info, decides to leave, the old employer often puts them on gardening leave. They're still employed, still getting paid,
Right.
but they are strictly forbidden from working for anyone else, especially a competitor. Sometimes they can't even work on any related projects.
Ah, so it's basically paying them to stay away.
Exactly. It's designed specifically to stop them taking current sensitive information straight to a rival. It gives the old team time for that knowledge to become, less current, less directly useful by the time the person can actually start their new job.
Makes sense in a cutthroat business like F1. So how did it play out with Cardiel?
Well, the announcement came on July 8th last year, Cardiel leaving Ferrari. And almost immediately, it was public knowledge he was heading to Aston Martin. Caused quite a stir.
I remember that.
But Ferrari, knowing exactly what Cardiel knew, especially with 2026 looming, they slapped a mandatory one-year gardening leave on him straight away.
1 full year.
Yep, meaning he was sidelined until July of this year. The whole point was to stop him immediately feeding Aston Martin info that could help their future car designs.
Okay, standard procedure, maybe a bit lengthy, but still. Then things got messy.
They really did. This is where it goes from standard practice to, well, a courtroom drama. In March this year, Ferrari somehow got wind or believed they had evidence that Cardile wasn't actually sticking to the rules of his gardening leave.
Ooh. So they thought he was already working with Aston Martin.
That seems to be the implication, or at least collaborating in some way, that breached the agreement. From Ferrari's point of view, this was a massive deal, a direct threat to their IP. So they didn't just send a letter, they went straight to court.
Wow. Legal action.
Yep, took him to the Tribunal of Modena. That's usually where Ferrari handles these things, being based there.
So this wasn't just a warning shot.
Not at all. Ferrari was serious. Their official statement made it crystal clear. They said, and I'm paraphrasing slightly, that the Modena court, acting on Ferrari's request, ordered Cardile to immediately cease any form of collaboration with Aston Martin until July 18th.
July 18th. So the court upheld Ferrari's claim, at least for that period.
It certainly seems that way. It really highlights just how fiercely these teams guard their secrets, their designs, their processes, their data. It's everything. They will go to incredible lengths, including public legal battles, to protect it.
It's a message, isn't it? Not just to Cardile, but to everyone.
Absolutely. Ferrari drawing a line in the sand, saying, we will protect our knowledge. It suggests that even the potential for information transfer, whether it has an immediate impact or not, is seen as such a threat they'll fight it in court. It changes the game for engineers thinking of moving and for teams trying to recruit. It signals maybe a more aggressive phase in F1's talent wars. Human knowledge is the ultimate asset.
So after all that legal fighting, the court order, the waiting, Cardile finally gets his Aston Martin pass. When did he actually start?
Officially, July 18th. That was a Thursday.
Yeah.
So effectively, his first proper day in the office would have been the Monday of the Spa Grand Prix week.
Right before Spa. Okay. And we're recording this on August 5th, so he's been there. What?
Just doing the math. About 18 days, give or take.
18 days. That is not very long at all in F1 terms.
Tiny.
Yeah.
And this is absolutely critical to understand. Cardile has had zero involvement with the current 2025 Aston Martin car. None whatsoever.
Okay, important clarification.
Just like Adrian Newey, who also joined recently, Cardile's entire focus, his whole mandate, is purely on the 2026 regulations, developing that completely new car. So anyone trying to link his arrival to, say, how the car performed at Spa or Hungary,
Forget it. Pure speculation.
completely unfounded. He hasn't touched the 2025 car. His work starts now for the future.
So 18 days in the job. As you say, the immediate tangible impact is going to be limited right now.
Of course, he's not waving a magic wand. But his presence, just him being there, finally, is hugely significant for Aston Martin's long-term strategy, especially for 2026.
And that whole Ferrari legal battle just underlines his value, doesn't it?
It screams it from the rooftops. It shows the enormous value F1 teams place on that kind of deep, proprietary knowledge, design philosophies, secrets. It's the crown jewels. Ferrari fighting that hard tells you everything you need to know about how important they felt his knowledge was.
So Cartier's arrival completes a big part of the puzzle for Aston Martin, but it also shows how tricky these high-level moves can be.
Definitely. It's a high-stakes game.
Okay, so Cardiel is finally in the building. His focus is clear, 2026. But as we hinted, he's not walking into a static situation. His arrival is really the final piece of a much bigger reorganization at Aston Martin, one that started way back in the beginning of this year. This is where it gets really interesting, seeing how all the pieces are supposed to fit together.
Yeah, this is the grand plan taking shape.
Right. So cast our minds back to January 10th specifically. That's when Aston Martin announced a major restructuring, a real shakeup.
A statement of intent, really.
Absolutely. Mike Crack, who is the team principal, he stepped down from that specific role. And stepping in as team principal was Andy Cowell.
Now there's a name, Andy Cowell.
Yeah.
Synonymous with that Mercedes engine dominance?
Exactly. The mastermind behind Mercedes HPP during that incredible run with the hybrid power units. Huge hire. But he wasn't the only seismic move announced then, was he?
No, that was also when the Adrian Newey news really solidified. The legendary designer, maybe the greatest ever, joining his chief technical partner.
So, Cowell and Newey. Talk about a power play. Aston Martin wasn't messing around. They were completely rebuilding their technical leadership.
Putting a serious brain trust in place.
Yeah.
And it creates this really interesting, potentially incredibly powerful new leadership structure.
Okay, break that down for us. How does it look on the new org chart?
Right. So Andy Cowell, he's now the team principal, top operational figure, runs the whole show day to day, sets the overall strategy, manages the entire F1 operation.
The boss, essentially.
Yeah. Then you have Adrian Newey as chief technical partner. His role is fascinating. It's positioned as this global supervisor of the entire technical area.
Global supervisor, so overseeing everything technical.
That's the idea. He's not just head of aero or head of design. He's expected to influence, guide, maybe even dictate the overall technical direction. He's the visionary. He sets the fundamental concept, the aerodynamic philosophy, the shape of the car.
The big ideas guy.
The ultimate big ideas guy, you could say. Conjuring up how the car should fundamentally work.
Okay, so Cowell runs the team. Newey provides the grand vision. What happens beneath Newey?
So under Newey's oversight, they've structured the technical operations into two main pillars, clear responsibilities.
Right.
First, you have Mike Crack. Remember, he stepped down as PP. He's now Chief Trackside Officer.
Okay, what does that entail?
His world is now everything that happens at the track. Running the race weekends, getting the absolute most out of the car they have at that moment, and critically, feeding back information, driver comments, engineer data, how the car feels, balance issues, all that real-world feedback.
Bridging the gap between design and reality.
Exactly. Then the second pillar, reporting ultimately up the chain towards Newey, is Enrico Cardile. His title is Director of Factory Operations, or CTO Chief Technical Officer.
Ah, so that's Cardile's specific role in this new structure.
Yep, and it's vital. He supervises the actual architecture, the detailed design, and the construction of the new cars. Back at the factory, he's the one taking Newey's concepts and making them real.
Turning the vision into a physical car.
Precisely, ensuring it gets designed in detail, meets the regs, and can actually be built.
So the idea is a seamless flow. Newey has the concept, Cardile executes it, Crack tests it, and feeds back.
That's the dream workflow they're aiming for. You imagine Newey sketching something radical, saying, this is the aero philosophy, or this is how the underfloor needs to work for 26.
Right.
Cardile's job, then, is to take that vision, that maybe abstract idea, and translate it into practical engineering blueprints. He manages departments like composites, structures, manufacturing, making sure Newey's brilliant idea can actually be built reliably and efficiently within the budget cap.
It sounds like a crucial link, the translator between genius and production.
It really is that classic tension, isn't it?
Yeah.
I remember reading Adrian Newey's book. He talked about his relationship with Rob Marshall at Red Bull.
Ah, yeah.
Newey would come up with something wild, like sticking the battery right inside the gearbox, casing for better packaging. And Marshall, the practical engineering chief, would be like, Adrian, you're killing me. That's a nightmare to build. The gearbox guys will revolt.
Huh. I can imagine.
But Newey would push. And eventually, Marshall and his team had to figure out how to make the seemingly impossible happen. That's the dynamic Aston Martin surely wants with Newey and Cardile. Cardile is the Rob Marshall in this equation, needing to ground the genius in manufacturable reality.
Okay, that makes sense. And Crack's role in feeding back performance issues closes the loop.
Exactly. Say the car has issues trackside, drivers report something specific, that info goes via Crack back up the chain. Newey might then identify a flaw in his concept or an area needing refinement. Then it's Cardile's team again, executing the fix, redesigning based on Newey's adjusted direction, which stemmed from Crack's trackside feedback.
It's a constant cycle.
It has to be. Vision, execution, validation, feedback, refinement. Over and over. This whole restructuring, it's ambitious. It aims for this highly integrated, super efficient technical machine. They're trying to build the perfect system to leverage Newey's unique talent.
It sounds incredible on paper, a real dream team structure. But F1 is famously high pressure. Do these perfect structures always work out? Is there a risk of, too many chiefs or wires getting crossed between Newey's global supervision and Cardile's factory operations?
That's always the million-dollar question, isn't it? Assembling the talent is one thing. Making them click under pressure is another entirely. Communication, clarity of roles, managing egos, it's complex.
For sure. So, looking at this grand plan, the new structure, Cardile finally arriving, what does it all mean for the big picture, for the massive challenge that is the 2026 season?
Well, that's where we hit the harsh realities of the clock.
Right. Despite the strategic importance of getting Cardile, despite finally having this leadership team in place, the timing is undeniably tight, very tight.
Extremely tight. As you said, we're recording this August 5th. The first preseason test for 2026 is penciled in for late January, January 26th to 30th, roughly.
So doing the quick math, that's only about 176 days away.
176 days, which sounds like a fair bit, maybe. But in F1 development terms, for a completely new car, built to revolutionary new rules, having your key technical director, Cardile, only starting on August 5th. That is profoundly late.
Late with a capital L.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Ideally, you want that person in place from day one of the regulation cycle, guiding things from the very start. Work has obviously been going on at Aston Martin, but key leadership arriving this late means they are undeniably playing catch-up. They're behind the curve before the season even starts.
And that lateness is amplified by specific hurdles, isn't it? Like the crash tests.
Oh, massively. The mandatory FIA crash tests for the new 2026 chassis are a huge, unforgiving bottleneck for every single team.
Explain why there's such a big deal.
Well, for a car to even run in testing, let alone race, its chassis has to pass a whole series of incredibly tough impact tests. Front impact, side impacts, rear impact, the roll hoop strength. It's all about driver safety.
And the car has to be basically built to do these tests.
Exactly. The design and construction have to be finished long before those January test dates. And the really critical point here is that the 2026 crash tests are set to be even stricter than they are now. The FIA is raising the bar significantly.
So an already tough challenge gets even harder.
Immensely harder. We heard Andrea Di Sordo, the technical director at Haas, saying publicly it's going to be extremely difficult to create a compliant chassis. He basically said all the teams are struggling just to pass the tests on paper, in simulation, let alone build it light enough.
The weight penalty. Pass the test, but be too heavy.
That's the constant battle. Strength versus weight. Every gram matters. Pass the test? Sure. But if your chassis is kilos overweight, you're dead in the water competitively. There were rumors, weren't there, about Cadillac potentially passing an early test.
Yeah, I saw that.
But with a chassis that was supposedly incredibly heavy, which just highlights the problem. You need to be safe and light.
So when do teams mainly need to pass these, and how does the 2026 timeline affect that?
Historically, top teams often aim to pass the main chassis tests around late December, but the 2026 preseason testing is way earlier than usual, late January instead of late February or early March.
Right, it's shifted forward significantly.
Which compresses everything. Realistically, Aston Martin probably needs that 2026 chassis designed, simulated, built, and ready for physical crash testing sometime in November. Maybe early December at the absolute latest. That is not far away at all, considering Cardile just started.
Okay, so crash tests are a massive, time-sensitive hurdle. What else is piling on the pressure for Aston Martin?
The other huge one, integrating a brand new Honda power unit.
Ah, yes. The move away from Mercedes power.
And it's not just swapping one engine for another. The 2026 power unit regulations are a massive reset. Everyone is designing effectively new engines from scratch.
What are the big changes there?
Well, the MGUH is gone. That complex unit recovering energy from the turbo, history, which simplifies things slightly, maybe, but it shifts the focus hugely onto the internal combustion engine itself, and especially the MGUK, the kinetic energy recovery from braking.
So more reliance on electrical power.
Much more. The MGUK is getting bigger, more powerful, its position is changing, the batteries are larger, there's a mandatory turbo relocation. It's a fundamental redesign impacting packaging, cooling, energy deployment strategy, everything.
And Honda are developing this new PU specifically for Aston Martin.
Yes, as their works partner from 2026. But the crucial issue for Aston Martin is they have zero existing data or experience integrating a Honda PU, let alone this brand new 2026 version. They know the Mercedes unit inside out. The Honda unit. It's a complete unknown in terms of packaging, cooling needs, operational quirks.
A massive learning curve.
Huge.
Yeah.
And Honda themselves are also racing against time. They have to develop this entirely new PU architecture. Remember how complex the Honda-Red Bull integration was initially, even when they had previous experience?
Yeah, it took time to perfect, and the McLaren-Honda initial partnership was, well,
a disaster, frankly. It shows how critical that PU chassis integration is. The chassis team designs around the PU shape, its cooling demands, its energy systems, all things that are still being finalized by Honda. It demands incredibly close collaboration, constant communication, rapid problem solving, all while the clock ticks down.
So you've got Cardile starting late, much tougher crash tests with a compressed timeline, and integrating a totally new power unit from a new partner who is also under pressure.
Exactly. It's the perfect storm, almost. And you layer on top Adrian Newey's own slightly delayed start. March 1st isn't exactly day one of the regs. The first proper 2026 wind tunnel tests only began in June, halfway through the year. Rivals who started earlier have months more aero data.
Plus, they've still had to focus on the current car, right?
That's the dual focus problem.
Yeah.
Aston Martin have been trying to fix issues and develop the 2025 car, which has been up and down. Every bit of resource engineers, sim time, wind tunnel hours spent on the 2025 car is resource not spent on the 2026 car.
Unlike teams like McLaren, maybe, who seem to have got their 2025 car sorted earlier and could switch focus.
Potentially, yes.
Huh.
Teams confident in their current platform could afford to pivot more resources towards 2026 much sooner. Aston Martin haven't had that luxury to the same extent.
It really does raise that question. How much ground can you realistically make up when your key people, your key development phases are starting so far behind schedule, especially for rules this different?
It's the fundamental challenge they face. Can talent and resources overcome that initial deficit against the clock?
It paints a picture of a team really pushing uphill against time and technical complexity. But is it all doom and gloom? Surely there must be a silver lining somewhere. What are the realistic hopes for Aston Martin in 2026, given everything we've discussed?
Look, it's definitely not all doom and gloom. The huge positive, the undeniable silver lining, is that the dream team, the super gear as you called it, is now actually in place. Cowell, Newey, Cardile, Crack. They're all physically there in the building, ready to go.
The components are assembled?
Exactly. The pieces are on the board.
Yeah.
Now, the massive task is getting that incredibly talented group to mesh, to gel, to communicate effectively, to get lubricated and running smoothly and cohesively,
Yeah.
overcoming any friction. The raw talent density is staggering.
And don't forget the guy actually driving the car.
Ah, yes. The Fernando Alonso factor. You absolutely cannot discount him. His role, especially in the early days of a brand new car, a new regulation set. It's immense.
We saw it in Hungary recently, didn't we?
Vividly, nearly snatching poles, scoring great points in a car that, let's be honest, probably wasn't the fifth fastest car there on pure pace. Alonso just has this uncanny ability to wring every last thousandth of a second out of whatever he's driving
Pushing beyond the limit.
and providing crystal clear feedback while doing it. That's invaluable when you're debugging a new car. He can mask weaknesses, tell the engineers exactly what needs fixing, and motivate the whole team. His experience across so many rule changes is gold dust.
So, with the talent in place and Alonso in the cockpit, what's the realistic trajectory? Are we talking immediate contenders, or is it a longer game?
I think we have to be realistic and differentiate short-term versus long-term. Given the late starts, the integration challenges, the immediate start of the 2026 season, the first few races, that might be tough. They might not burst out of the gates fighting for wins.
More of a development phase early on?
Probably. Think about McLaren in 2023. They started way off the pace, looked lost, but they turned it around dramatically within the season. Aston Martin might need a few stats, a few big upgrade packages early in 2026 to find their footing.
But the potential is there for later in the season or 2027.
Absolutely. The groundwork, the investment, the people are now there for serious future success. Mid-2026 onwards into 2027. The potential is undeniable. The resources and talent are converging like never before for this team identity.
It's about building momentum then.
If we connect this to the bigger picture,
Yes.
yes, F1 development has this inherent inertia. It's like a giant flywheel. It takes enormous effort and time to get it spinning up to speed, especially from a delayed start. Catching rivals who are already spinning fast is incredibly hard. You're reacting, not leading.
Right.
However, once a team does hit its stride, once the processes click, the people gel, the development gains thermal and inertia, as they say. Things start happening faster, correlations improve, upgrades work better, sustained effort can yield huge results later in a regulation cycle.
So the real test isn't just the launch car.
No. The true test for Aston Martin is how quickly this amazing new leadership team can learn, adapt, accelerate their development cycle, and get that flywheel spinning faster than their rivals. Can they build that momentum quickly enough to overcome the late start? That's the core question.
The pieces are finally on the board for Aston Martin's incredibly ambitious 2026 gamble. The challenge looks immense. That clock is ticking relentlessly, but the sheer talent involved is undeniable. Can they genuinely make up for lost time and become true contenders? It's going to be fascinating to watch.
Absolutely fascinating.
Okay, so let's quickly recap our deep dive today. We've looked at Enrico Cardiel's arrival, crucial, yes, but delayed and complicated by that legal fight with Ferrari. We've examined the huge restructuring at Aston Martin, bringing in heavyweights like Cowell and Newey alongside Cardiel and Crack. And we've detailed the significant technical hurdles they face for 2026, those tougher crash tests, the massive Honda PU integration, all against a very tight deadline. It's a high-wire act.
It really is. And maybe a final thought for our listeners to chew on. What does this intense, high-stakes race towards the 2026 regulations really tell us about competition and innovation in modern Formula One itself? Is success truly determined by who starts the earliest, who throws the most money down first? Or, when the rules change this dramatically, Does the advantage shift to the teams that can adapt fastest, optimize their new structures most effectively, and just accelerate their learning curve quicker than anyone else, even from behind, when the pressure is absolutely at its peak?
Adaptability versus the head start. A great question to ponder as we watch this F1 chess game unfold. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the intricate world of F1 strategy and development. We hope you found it insightful, and we encourage you to keep exploring the fascinating complexities of the sport.